Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this dialogue on our Euro-Mediterranean contest, A Sea of Words, in the program of The Voice of the Youth. We'll be having today with us Anja, Bartlomiej, Jonathan, and Marwa, who is connecting with us at the moment. And we will be discussing the topic of the last year's context, named young people's commitment with the climate change and the Agenda 2030 in the Mediterranean. So I will first let our guest introduce themselves a little bit, and then I'll explain the context of this event we are going today, which is part of the Anna Lindh Foundation's Virtual Marathon for Dialogue. And then I will speak a little bit of this Sea of Words context, of a little bit of its history, its rules, the different topics that it has touched. And then we will pass to last year's topic, the topic of 2020, and we'll have this dialogue and debate with our guests. And we'll do afterwards some final remarks and conclusion of this dialogue. So for our guest, our audience today, you can use the chat to do some questions at any moment. I will be checking it. And so don't hesitate to write on the chat, and I will transmit the questions to the group, or either answer myself. Okay. So guys, please, if you wanna introduce a little bit yourself, Anja, for example, you can start.
Hi everyone, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to participate in this discussion and also to meet my colleagues. I work as a journalist, and I am an art historian. Usually I live in Zagreb, but circumstances made it impossible to be in Zagreb right now. So I am in Malinska, in island of Krk. Usually I write short stories, and this Sea of Words competition was my first international recognition.
Thank you very much, Anja. Jonathan, Bartlomiej.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bartlomiej. I'm from Poland, and I live in Krakow, and I'm connecting from Krakow with you. I'm not this year edition participant. My story was selected in last year edition, and it was my pleasure to be a part of jury this year. And I want to say congratulations to all of you being here, Jonathan and Anja, here. Few words about me. I'm a language teacher, journalist, and right now also I'm studying theater direction in Krakow. And maybe a few words also about the last year edition. It was different topic actually, but maybe Peter, you will tell us more about it.
Yes, I will develop.
So maybe that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bartlomiej. Jonathan, please.
I'm Jonathan. I'm connecting from London today, from the UK. But originally I'm from Italy, specifically the north of Italy, near the Swiss border in the Alps. I'm very honored to be here today. It was very nice to be part of last year's competition, but that will be repeated this year for all the contestants. Fresh out of university, I finished university last year, and this year I've started a new experience. I'm teaching in a secondary school, as you can see. I'm teaching English literature, and in a school in London, near the center of London, that targets historically underachieving areas to try and boost and get as many children and students from this area into university as possible. So that's been an interesting journey, and because 80% of the students in my school are from Arab countries, it's been it's made it particularly interesting in retrospect to participate in this event as well, to hear some more voices from overseas and to get to know sort of the community around the Mediterranean as a whole. So thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much to all of you for coming, really, for finding some time to be here with us and share your experience, especially now that after all this year, we are all a little bit tired of this online format, but still, I really want to thank you on behalf of the IEMed for joining us today. Well, I present myself because I didn't. I am Peter. I'm currently working at the Culture and Civil Society Department at the European Institute of the Mediterranean in Barcelona. Today with me, there's Maria Angels and Karina. We work all the three together in this department. And also to explain a little bit our institution, the IEMed is a think tank based in Barcelona, but we also act as the secretariat of the Spanish network, the Annalyn Foundation. And jointly with the Annalyn, we organized this context with this Euro-Mediterranean contest of a sea of words. And so this event today is part of the virtual marathon for dialogue. This virtual marathon should have been a physical event in Croatia. Each 3 years, the Annalyn Foundation gathers all their members and the civil society activists in a very big forum where people can meet and exchange ideas and create partnership. But as it wasn't possible given the circumstances, they have created this format in which every entity and every national network of each of the 42 Euro-Mediterranean countries can present their own activities. So as we don't really have the chance to talk with you guys very often, apart from when you come to Barcelona, we decided to use this speaker of the virtual marathon to have this chat with you. And yes, so we have decided to speak of last year's topic, not only because it's the most recent, but also because, of course, it's still very relevant these days. Of course, climate change, the Agenda 2030, there's just still under 10 years in order to achieve it. So, of course, it's going to be a permanent topic present in conversations, and also very necessary to address it from different perspectives. As our guest already said a little bit, they were all participants to the contest. Jonathan, Anja, and Marwa, who will join us later, they participated in the last year. Anja had the second prize for her story Pogledash Glazove. I don't know if I'd say it well. Look at the voices. And in her story, I don't know if it was a first person or by autobiographical story. You speak about a young student from the Academy of Fine Arts in Zagreb, and their work in order to push for climate change action and awareness through art. And then, so Jonathan, you had the first prize last year. So then you will be also jury in this year's edition. Your story was Il Silencio delle Cime, the silence of the mountain peaks. And so I don't know also if you were speaking about your own family, but you reflect how climate change is affecting their way of life in these rural counties in the mountains of northern Italy, and how you're feeling the direct effects and also the importance of protect their way of living in order to achieve sustainable development. And then Bartlomiej, you participated in 2019. In your case, your topic was young people's commitment with social change. And so you had your story, Nieuwidzalni, the invisible. And so you talk about this young Polish, a passionate worker of the field of culture and education, who finds himself that trying to hold a very ambitious project in a community, but first time they had no interest in it. And in the end, when finally the project ends up being carried out and it was successful, he barely received recognition, right, of his labor. So these were a little bit your participations. We will speak about it more later on, but to put in context a little bit your relation with the context. And so just to quickly present what's a sea of words. So for our audience who might not know it, this context was created in 2008. Now this year we are running the 14th edition. So, and the context was born with the idea of giving voice to young people as well as we are in the end the agents of change of the future, maybe, and also we are the ones with the most open-minded to this intercultural dialogue, getting to know each other and maybe building more inclusive societies. So Sea of Word wants to promote these ideals through listening to young authors, expressing their opinions, their views, also their traditions through these short stories. And it's organized jointly between the IEMed and the Anna Lindh Foundation. And until now, since 2008, we have received almost 3,000 texts from half more or less from northern countries and the other half from southern and eastern Mediterranean countries. So that's something we feel very proud of this context, to really having a Euro-Mediterranean engagement. And so it's for young people between 18 and 30 years of age living in a Euro-Mediterranean country, and they can write in any of the national languages. And then an international jury finally decides and picks the best stories. Each year, the winner of the last edition participates, as was the case of Bartlomiej. And this year, Jonathan will be in the international jury. We also have Elisabetta Bartuli, which is a well-known Italian Arabist and translation from the professor in the Ca' Foscari University in Venice. We also have Jamila Hassoun, a Moroccan community organizer and social networking entrepreneur with a very long career engaged with building strong civil society. Both of them were since 2008. Then in 2012, Pere Antoni Pons, a philologist, writer, and philosopher from Mallorca, joined the team. And so there are very various topics, but generally the contest tries to focus in topics that are relevant to society, to civil society, to young people, going from violence to climate change to identity, cultural heritage, stereotypes, radicalization, combating hate speech, building citizenship. So as you see, there's a wide variety, but all with this ambition of trying to reflect on the current situation and look on the future. And well, and then the prize and the time we like the most is when you come to Barcelona. Unfortunately, last year participant Anja and Jonathan, you couldn't come because of the circumstances, but you will join us in 2021. Bartlomiej, you could come. So I will ask you a little bit how was it, and that you can explain also a little bit of your experience of being a jury. And here in Barcelona, we do an award ceremony. So in the Catalan Institute of Catalan Studies, we do some creative workshops of some years of literature, art, or theater, and we organize a visit or in Barcelona or maybe to Girona or Tarragona, nearby towns in Catalonia. But especially what is the most interesting is that it's a space when you can meet with the other participants and get to know each other, exchange. We can also meet you. And also we are very happy when some old participants let us know that they have published their work afterwards, and sometimes this contest helped them in maybe taking the step to publish or to give it a chance, not to the writing career. So we are also very happy and proud for that. I will let you in the chat afterwards a little bit of promotion of our website and Facebook. And there's still an ongoing, the call for this year is still ongoing until the 25th of June, in case you have some people, you know, want to participate. So moving to this year's edition and to yourself, I wanted to ask you in the first place a little bit, how did you know the context and what motivated you to participate? Any of you who want to take the floor?
I can begin.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Well, when I was looking last year because during lockdown I had some extra time on my hands. I was looking for a literary competition that I could enter and start to, you know, build up my writing that way. And I have to say, I looked at a bunch of them, but when I received an email that about the call for the Sea of Words, it struck me right away as a competition that treated literature a bit more in a utilitarian way. So that's what really attracted me to this one, because not only were you writing just for the sake of writing, you were writing for something greater, something more important, something that I think literature is meant to be, to draw people together. And that's why I picked this one specifically.
Thank you very much. Well, before moving to you guys, I see we have Marwa with us. Let's see if she can put the camera and maybe say hello. Can you hear us, Marwa? Well, while maybe she fixes the connection. So Marwa was a participant of last year also. She comes from Syria and won the third prize for the story Hayatu Ba'd al-Maut, which means life after death. And so the story tells about makes a very crude and painful description of the devastation in Syria caused by the war, and also especially in the city of Homs, where we have some pictures that Marwa sent us. And but the story ends with a hopeful message of seeing Syria green again and reconstructed, and so it's also a very nice story. Well, in the meantime, maybe Anja, you can explain how did you know the context and what motivated you to participate?
Well, my case is similar to what Jonathan just said. I wanted to write something, but I didn't have a clear idea what would that be, and what kind of message I want to send in my texts. So I saw your open call on Facebook, and it really was interesting to me. So I Googled the last editions and read some stories that won awards in the previous years. And I found it really interesting and thought that this last year's theme was also interesting and challenging in a way. So I wanted to write something that is also can be practical, maybe in a way, not just in a pure theoretical, nobody understands kind of text. So that practicality and activism were the two things that inspired me and motivated me to write my story.
And thank you, Anja. Did it also happen to you as Jonathan that given that you had more time with the lockdown, that was also an input to motivate you to write?
Yes, that was also a part of it, because I was in my hometown, Požega. It's a small town in Croatia, so I had some time to reflect and think and write in a kind of peaceful environment.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So, and in your case, Bartlomiej, was the 2019 edition.
Yes, a bit different because it was, to be honest, coincidence. I just saw the ad on Facebook, so I can say that your ads work good because they are displayed to right people. I hope so. So that was a coincidence, but the main factor which convinced me to take part was, and I think this is important to say now, that you can write your story in your own language. And for me, it was very, very important because I feel much better. My writing skills are much better in my native language than in English. And so I wrote my story in Polish, and for me it was also very interesting like having this 1 year perspective. It's to say that it's a kind of good somehow test for your novels, for your short stories. I would say that you can see if the idea, the thought you put in the story, it's communicative to the audience, not only from your country but the other countries. That was very, very good experience.
I'm glad you say these kind words of the contest, and it's true that you have highlighted two of the key aspects, I believe, of Sea of Words that maybe make them different to other short story contests, and maybe it's the fact that we like to think of writing as a tool in order to reach social change indistinctively of each year's topic. But it's true that we see it as a way of young people to express themselves, and not just for the sake of the art, which of course it's valuable by itself, the art of writing short stories, but also trying to go to move further and fostering this intercultural dialogue and pushing for the causes we believe that they are relevant. And also what you were speaking about, Bartlomiej, that the fact that you can speak, that you can write in your home, in your national language, in your mother tongues. I think, yes, since the beginning, it was something we had very clear, because of course it's the tongue where each of you are going to have more richness and feel more comfortable. And we really want to read what you want to express in when you feel more comfortable. So I think that's also interesting. It's also a lot of work to translate everything, I'm not going to lie, but I think it's very important that you can all express in your own languages. Marwa, I don't know if you read the chat. She told us that she's having trouble because Zoom doesn't work in Syria. She's trying to fix her VPN, and she will join us when she can. So yeah, continuing with this topic of climate change and this 2030 agenda, something I really liked of your stories, Anja and Jonathan, was the fact that you can see this transversal approach, or this varied approach to the problem of climate change. For example, on our side, we decided to launch this contest to raise awareness, and then you wrote, Anja, about using arts in order to raise concerns in the population of these issues. Jonathan, you were speaking about the first-hand experience in the rural areas. So I really found that interesting, how you find like your own ways to express concerns about the issues. I don't know if you had thought about it before, if it's something that you made up for the contest. Any of you guys?
From my side, yes, I mean, it's something that living in the Alps you are faced with every day, especially if you try to engage in agriculture or having livestock. my family historically has always lived off the land in that way. And my uncle has taken it forward, and my grandfather took it forward from their ancestors. And it was really striking when I thought about it, the differences and the effects that you could see in our own lifetime. Sometimes I find that it's hard to kind of visualize change because we see numbers on a chart, or we read an article that says since the 1900s these changes have happened. But when you can actually observe that change,
feel it right firsthand.
Yes, in your own experience, in your own lifetime, then it's much more impactful. So yes.
Because, for example, Jonathan, you mentioned in your story, which I was impressed because I said, wow, there you have like the effect. It's not like it's coming in 10, 15 years time. It's happening in your home village. You say one time snow had even fallen in August when the cows were still grazing the pastures and the mountains ridges had become ice white. Nowadays, it didn't happen. The mountains had stopped turning white. Even in winter, the water stays underground, hidden. So yeah, here I could see that you are already facing this lack of water.
Yes. If you look at the numbers, in the last century, the average temperature of the Alps has gone up about 2 degrees Celsius, which is more than the average of France, for example, and double the average of the Northern Hemisphere. So these delicate mountain environments are definitely being affected at a higher rate than some of the others. Around the Mediterranean itself is a very delicate environment, so obviously those effects are felt all over the place, not just in the Alps. But particularly when you're trying to survive or raise cattle high up in the mountains to maintain those ecosystems that have existed for hundreds of years now, then you're faced with these challenges. And my story, yes, it relates to my youth. It relates to my experiences when I was young, running after cows up there. And the years, if I had a year, it would probably be around 2004 to 2006.
If you let me 1 second, Jonathan, I think I have the picture you sent us about the mountains and your grandfather. If you let me share it,
please.
So maybe they can locate. Let me see. If you're seeing my screen, can you see it?
Yes.
So these were the pictures you sent us.
Yes.
This is
so
in your home village, right? In your hometown.
Exactly. These are photos taken by my aunt, who is a photographer, about our family farm, run by my uncle now, but still very much supported by my grandfather, who's retired, but still gets up every morning at 5 o'clock, doesn't miss a single milking of the cows. So he's on the top on the left, the man with the blue coat. And then there's a picture of me from a few years ago when I was still spending my summers up there on the farm. And then underneath you can see the range of mountains that we live on, and that's in the summer. But you can notice already at the tops where there would be historically they would have snow on them the whole summer, and you can see 2 specks of snow left in the valleys.
Yes.
Definitely that sort of reserve of fresh water is being depleted, and the reservoirs of water are moving lower and lower down the mountains. In the last 3-4 years, in fact, in the area where we are, they've moved a couple hundred meters probably down the mountain. And that means that certain areas above a certain altitude you're not able to support farming as well as you used to. You can do it, but that means you have to employ machinery, which means you have to carry water up there using tractors. Obviously is not what you want to do, because that's damaging in itself. So
yes. No, no, 100%. And it's such a pity to see, because in the end, as you were also explaining, that Mediterranean, it's very highly fragile, highly vulnerable to climate change. It's the second most biodiverse area in the world after the Amazon, I would say, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really an area that's going to feel the effects of extreme climate events, of drought, of storms. But that's why also we have to contribute to reduce our impact and try to change our direction, and hope that your family can still growing their cattle and living their life in the north of Italy. Yes. So and you, Anja, also in your story you speak about this Mia, who's a young activist. She studies in the Fine Arts University in Zagreb, and so she has this project to raise awareness on the village. I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more how you thought about that, if it's something you are talking about your own experience, or it was for the story.
Sure, but before I continue, I just wanted to maybe say something about Jonathan's story.
Please.
And how my story, I feel a connection with his. So I really enjoyed reading it, and I really enjoyed that relationship between the grandfather and the boy. And I think that your use of language is really interesting, and it brings so much, what can I say, like so much richness and to the story, you know, and it's really interesting for me. And I also agree with the things that you were talking about, how your story reflects on passage of time, and I kind of have that element in my story in a character named Josip, and he was created after my grandfather, was inspired by him, because his whole life he worked with bees, and also like created manually beehives, and really like created the whole philosophy about the bees. And I always get kind of sad when he tells me how during the years he saw that the behavior of bees is different because of the temperature and the weather. The winters are much hotter here in Croatia. So the bees often come outside the beehives when it's not the real time to go outside and collect the flowers and that kind of thing. So they are dying, and I don't know really what we can do to like stop that kind of behavior. And sorry, the question about my story, I was concentrating on Jonathan.
No problem. To repeat it. Yeah, no, if you could explain us a little bit this project you tell on your story from the Mia, this young activist worker, and explain us what this project was about in your story, if you were inspired by your own experience, your real life, a little bit of these implications.
Okay. So my story is a fiction with a few autobiographical elements. One of them is just like that short story about my grandfather I just told. But it was really important for me to develop characters that are young students, and that they are both artists and activists in a way. So their art is a form of activism. So I have three different characters. Mia is a painter, and she just uses a natural color that comes from one plant on the mountain in Croatia. So she wants to show that almost she will not have like a red paint to paint with. So she paints abstract paintings. Then Josip, as I just mentioned, he made a documentary about the bees and their behavior, and he wanted to show the problems in the nature that are obvious and are getting worse by the time. And Rocco, the third character, he makes sculptures from tiny pieces of plastic, bottles, sponges, and basically trash that he finds on the island of Pag. But it was really important that every element and every character was connected with a piece of Croatian history. So we have Mia and that plant that is characteristic for that Croatian mountain. We have beehives and Josip and homage to my grandfather. And Rocco makes sculptures of trash that he finds on the island of Pag, and he makes souvenirs like small shells. I found that the island of Pag is from its bottom, it's like developed from the seashells. So yeah, so it's everything. I tried that everything is really connected in a way to Croatia and heritage, geographical and cultural. In a way, I hope that answers your question.
No, 100%, and it's a little bit also what I was explaining, how you thought about the different ways in which they could engage in addressing climate change through their work, through their art. Also now with this aspect you mentioned of the Croatian tradition. So yeah, I found it really, really interesting. And also I like your last sentence, which I guess the title also comes from this sentence that now your voice is heard, make sure it resounds. And this, who told it to who? Sorry, this story, this sentence.
Okay. In my story, these three characters come together and they want to do something in their community and make a bigger change that is connected with climate change. So they want to be activists with their art. And they feel that because they are young and inexperienced, nobody will listen to them. So they contacted their old professor from the university to help them. And that was also my idea to connect like tradition, knowledge, authority in a way with voices that need help or encouragement or they have to learn some new responsibilities. So my last sentence refers to the professor tells them now he thinks that they are equipped and they have they are ready to like face the media and public and community with their own ideas and their own project. Like they don't need to count on him anymore because he gave them the knowledge and the encouragement they needed. So on a symbolic level, they found their voices, but before they weren't sure about that.
So then their voice are heard after having the help of the professor. right?
Well, it's the next part of the story. It's like an open beginning.
Okay.
For interpretation, yeah. But I hope that
send us the second part so we can finish it.
yeah. But I hope that in the story it should have some positive outcome.
No, yeah, totally, and also this piece of hope for the future, and also this aspect of the voice of being heard. It's something we think a lot at the IEMed, because it's true that usually young people don't have these spaces to be heard, or for their work to really be seen and have maybe their impact they could have or they deserve. So this idea is something we really think about, and it's a very big motivation for doing this contest. And also we have, for example, a series of debate called The Voice of the Youth that we organized in entities of our network, of the Spanish network of the Anna Lindh Foundation. They organized them in May and June, and also with this contest in May 27th, we organized a workshop with 20 young civil society activists from different parts of Spain to combat hate speech. So yeah, I think it's a key idea, and especially now with climate change, with this topic, given that we are the generation that's going to leave the worst effect, but also the ones who have maybe the most consciousness on the topic, and will have the capacity to affect it in a positive way in order to change the path. So yeah, this idea of the voice, I found it very, very interesting.
Yes,
And Bartlomiej, sorry, Anja, sorry. Now I was going to give a little bit the floor to our friend Bartlomiej.
No, I just wanted to comment in one sentence that all of these opportunities that you just mentioned, I think they are great and they are important because, as you said, they create spaces to young people to express themselves. And something I find frustrating is that, and I also wanted to put it in my story, that young people are not considered serious and like irresponsible, but I think it's not true. So it's not true. So I just wanted to think about that idea in a story also.
100%. And so Bartlomiej, you were the jury of Anja, Jonathan, and Marwa last year. If you could tell us how was the experience of being a jury of a short story contest? I don't know if it had happened to you before, if you found it interesting, hard. Was it difficult to decide upon which story you liked the most?
It was first time I had this experience, but I wish it to absolutely everybody, that everybody could have it, because it was amazing experience. First of all, of course it is very difficult because stories are different, and we had to I would say only on behalf of myself, because probably the other members of jury might have different opinion, but in my case, I sometimes had to even make some research to go deeply to the story and to understand the context. But it was also a very good thing that you have some opportunity to see how this global thinking is introducing locally, and you could see some local words created by the authors. Amazing experience. I want to, first of all, I have to say that to everybody who is watching us, to Google text of our authors, so Jonathan text and Anja text. I think it's published right now, in internet.
Yes,
so
I'm going to share with you in the chat the digital
I would like to
anthropology where there's the text.
Okay, so I would like to encourage everybody who is watching us to read it after this meeting, because they did amazing, great job. And apart from this, what was said, I want to say that in the Jonathan's story, of course, the evidence was the most impressive thing. Like what really stays with you after this story. This as you mentioned, guys, that there is a real evidence that there is less snow, there is different environment now, everything is changing. But also the narration is really absolutely great, and I really recommend to read it. And also in the story, Anja's stories, I would say that for me the most also important thing, apart from what was said, also was the thing that we need to be united. Like there was a cooperation between generations to achieve it. And this is also what I believe, that without this cooperation, it will be very, very difficult to achieve something in this area of climate change, of stopping this climate change and protection environment. So that was two very, very important things in these stories. And also, I would like to say that I'm very happy I was very happy, and I'm still very happy to see that the theme of last year edition, that it was a climate change and sustainable development, because personally, I think that most probably we won't have any bigger challenge in our lives than stopping this changes and protecting environment, protecting the biodiversity. So I think this is our one of the biggest challenge of our generation, and I'm really grateful for this team. And it was my pleasure and my honor to be a member of jury and read all these stories, which inspired me a lot. And also I have my own thoughts after these stories, and all this process was amazing.
And Bartlomiej, so apart from being a jury, you also attended you also came to Barcelona in 2019 when your story was selected. I don't know if you can share a little bit about your experience here, the ceremony, the workshops. Also, maybe you will, like this, Anja and Jonathan will know what they can expect from their visit when they join us in November.
The only good memories after that 3 days in Barcelona, in my case 4 days actually, I think. Of course, there is this formal part, which is absolutely great, award ceremony, workshops and everything. But what I remember the most was all these discussions we had in between these events, these meetings, exchanging points of view on different cases, talking about our countries, our cultures, our expectations, our societies. What is really inspiring also, that you can meet many people who think in the same way, and it's really good experience, building experience for you. For example, I can say for myself that sometimes I have this struggles that I'm not sure if I should still try to do something, for example, for this climate change. Yeah, I think you take another action and there is a block or there is a wall and you cannot go farther. And when you meet these people and you share this share the same ideas, the same feelings about it or similar thoughts about it, it's really helpful and encourage you to make some effort again. So for me, that was the biggest asset of this Barcelona meeting, that we could exchange some points of view, and we could actually met, and also we are in touch with some participants till now. So I think it's a great event.
That's great, Bartlomiej. I'm so happy that you have this nice memories with you. And yeah, you talk about what we believe is the most valuable aspect of this contest, and is this fact that you can get to know each other, to exchange, to share thoughts, and maybe uniting just young people from such varied backgrounds, cultures, tradition, right? In the end, we are speaking about 42 countries from the whole Euro-Mediterranean space that can participate. But it's true that it's wonderful to realize that after when they have the chance to meet, they have so these many things in common. And it's great that you are still in touch with some of the young people that participated with you also. And yeah, we're really looking forward to being able to hold this celebration this year. It was a pity to cancel it in 2020 for obvious reasons. And if it was for us, if we could decide, we would like to have 100 of you here and spend the whole week. But in the end, money talks. But yeah, it's a really nice experience. I'm also looking forward to live it myself, because it's my first year at the IEMed. So I think it's going to be very enriching, as you say, to exchange with people from these different origins. And I also wanted to ask you guys if you are still writing, if it was a hobby or passion you had before and you are continuing, if you have published, if you plan on continuing to do so.
Yeah, well, I'm still no problem. I'm still writing. In fact, I'm writing all the time because I'm a journalist. So sometimes I don't even have enough brain capacity to focus on a fiction that I would want to write. So I have like a notebook with so many different ideas and beginnings of stories and ends maybe, but I need to like put them all together and write something that is a full story. So, but this competition really motivated me to write short stories in particular, because that's really interesting form of text for me. And also I have a few short stories published on Croatian websites, and I think that's a good beginning.
Of course it is, of course.
I'm the same, like Anja. It's hard to find the time, and it was a great excuse to have the Sea of Words to be able to complete a whole piece and send it because of the deadline. But yes, bits and pieces here and there, me as well. I tend to write through my students a bit more nowadays. When I get them to write, and then I correct what they write. I'm always like, you should use this strategy or that. This is really interesting. So I tend to write through them a bit more these days, but sometimes I have to create something for them to analyze. So sometimes I get to use a bit of my own creativity. But it would be nice to find some time in the future, definitely, to do this again and finish a piece and publish it. That'd be nice.
But Jonathan, I'm glad to hear that you also need deadlines to work. So that's comforting in a way. I'm not alone.
Yes, yes. It was a great excuse to have it, so that you had to send it. Definitely.
I'm grateful and glad to know, guys, that the Sea of Word context helped you to finally end some pieces, because it's true that when you do it just because of the love for the art, sometimes when you're busy with work or studies or friends, you maybe cannot find the time to put these bits of stories together and make a fine piece. But as you can see, when you find the time, you create it very very interesting and very, very deep and nice to read stories. So I encourage you to continue to do so. And Bartlomiej, what's your case?
I like deadlines as well, so we can all three have something in common. I have to say that the one also of biggest asset of this contest for me was like getting some self-confidence after this last year edition, actually 2 years edition. For me, it was also like Anja mentioned first, like international recognition. So it really encouraged me to continue it. So I couldn't say now that I'm a writer, but definitely I write something for myself, for my friends. Sometimes I send it here and there. So I think I will keep going and I will just continue this way definitely, because I see in this some way of connection with the world, and my way of how I can communicate with something deep, what I found and what I discovered. So yes, definitely it's something to continue.
That's great. Thank you, Bartlomiej. And guys, if anytime you have some stories you would like to share, feel free to send it to us. We will be grateful to share it with future participants or on our Facebook or website, because it's great to have a little bit of a follow-up with you and to see that you're still writing, to know that the contest helped you. For us, it's very how do you say it? Very fulfilling, and yeah, it brings us joy to see this. So please, if you have some, send it. And I'm seeing that we have a message for the three of you on the chat from Ibtihal Abdallah. So the message says, hey guys, so I'm willing to participate in this year's audition, but it's taking me so long to find the perfect idea. So what should I do? Should I keep thinking about the perfect idea, or should I start with what I have and see how it goes? Thanks in advance. So if you want to give some advice to Ibtihal. And thank you Ibtihal for your contribution and for your questions. To our other guests, if you want to participate and write in the chat, please feel free to do so.
So I'm not an expert, but just maybe my feeling about it. It really depends on writing style. So there are people who just sit without idea and they just see how it flows and they just follow what they have and what is created just right now while writing. And there are people who are just more waiting for the idea, maybe looking for the idea, or just transforming it, working with it, and they have everything structured, ready, and they just sit and write it in 2-3 hours. So really, there is no one way, but depends on like your writing style. If you are struggling with the finding perfect idea, I would probably start with what I have, and rewriting the story. It's also another good practice to make it like to go even deeper with the theme, the topic you chose. So maybe I would say something like this.
Yeah, well, I agree with what just Bartome said. But also, I would say that for me, feedback was really important, and conversation. So maybe you can give your story to your friends or your colleagues or someone, and it's always refreshing for me to see my story from a different point of view and a different perspective. And I think when you have a dialogue with someone, you also make that idea more like you craft it in a way, you make it, you improve it in a way. And what else? I just wanted to say that you know, perfect idea, it is hard to define. You know, you can just trust yourself and your instinct. And what my other advice would be, maybe write from your own experience or from your own point of view, your country, your friends. Just put in the story something that is really authentic to your voice. That's my advice.
Yes, I think that's a beautiful thought. Try and find your voice. I always found it quite hard to write and then share it with other people, because ultimately when you write, you're showing someone a piece of yourself, and that sometimes can be quite scary or challenging. So yes, I agree. You have to get some words on the page. So just start with that. Imagine talking to a friend, imagine talking to someone, get the words on the page, and then from there you can work it out. Once you have something, then you can add things, you can show someone, and you can work on it. And that's how I found my voice. But everyone obviously has their own way in the end to get to it.
Well,
yes, and if I can say just one more sentence, you know, we shouldn't forget that writing is a form of communication. You know, everyone wants to write something and get some kind of feedback on your work. So I would encourage to develop some kind of dialogue with the person you trust. That's it.
well, I think you have provided wonderful pieces of advice to Ibtihal. I hope it's going to be helpful to you in order to start writing. And also you can remember what helped our writers to end their stories and to be motivated. And it's the fact that you have to send your story by June 25th. So don't worry if you don't find inspiration. I'm sure on June 24th, the night, words will come out. No, but yeah, really take their advice. I'm not a writer myself, though I might participate in this year's edition. So I hope you will be nice to my story, Jonathan, in case I pass the Spanish selection. But yeah, really brilliant pieces of advice, and hope you can find the motivation to write Ibtihal. And well, I wanted to, I don't know if you have something else to add or to comment.
I would just say, if you're thinking about writing or not writing, definitely go for it. It's definitely worth it. Even if you send something that you think is not the perfect answer, go for it anyway. It's gonna be worth it, and you're gonna feel empowered, and you're gonna feel happy after you've done it anyway. So don't be afraid, just go for it.
Thank you, Jonathan. And well, I wanted to now maybe move a little bit again to the topic of last year, and not so much about the contest itself, and try to reflect again. We still have 20 minutes left, so it's plenty of time on this Agenda 2030. And maybe if you could share with us your thoughts on the engagement you might see in your community or in your group of friends, in general, maybe in the youth that you have contact with. How can you assess their engagement with this agenda, which of course is not just climate change, but a whole array of goals willing to improve the general human well-being in our planet. So I wanted to discuss with you, maybe you know some initiatives, some friends of you, maybe you yourself, you are carrying out or you're participating in some actions, and also yeah, your experience and the perception you have on the young people's motivation and the possibilities of meeting the objectives of this Agenda 2030. I know it's a long question. If you, I can repeat, or if you want to take some time to think about it.
So I can start, but
Thank you,
maybe
Bartlomiej.
yeah, unfortunately, I see that we are not going very good with it. Like, I can complain a lot about governments, authorities, politics, and so on. But maybe I will start with good example. What happened in my city, for example, because Krakow, it's a beautiful city and worth visiting and so on, and with great people. But the other thing is that it's one of the most contaminated, I mean, with the polluted air city in Europe. Especially in winter, we have a big problem because it's located in a small valley, and everything is just staying, and all these gas are staying in this valley, and it's very bad during the winter. And few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe less, appeared some activists who started to really educate people. That was the first thing: educate and share awareness about it. And last year, actually, we had some like really big result of their activism. Finally, the authorities changed some rules in the city, and finally, for example, heating system with coal, it's forbidden, and there are some changes. And that's the good example when we see that making people aware, that educate people, like this is something what we can actually do. I really, I would really love to have situation that the examples are coming from the top. But of course, on the other hand, what we can really do now is to take care about our local environment. So that's a good example that the story finished with the happy end finally.
Yes, 100%. This slogan, right? Think globally, but act locally.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bartlomiej.
Yes, I was surprised when I read the 2030 agenda, that even just from the first point, it didn't seem actually directed so much at physical changes of sort of industry or transport. It seemed more directed at sort of social change before being able to affect that sort of change. It sort of seemed to say, okay, the first goal we need is equality on all levels, and then we can start thinking about being able to move in that direction. I mean, in Anja's story, it comes out beautifully, this complexity that not only can you just think about collecting pieces of plastic and stuff, but you also have to think about, you know, equality based on race and gender and religion and all of those as well. So I think it's a very complicated problem that we're facing, but yes, I think we have to believe that there's a way forward, and we have to stick to those basic principles: human communication, trying to educate all the time as much as possible, and in that way, yes, there can be positive change. Definitely.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, well, I would agree that the changes are most visible in local communities, like in a small setting. For example, in schools, some kinds of businesses want to implement so sustainability in their work, and I don't know any like bigger national project I would now talk about, but more that like a sense of community. And also I think it's great that here in Croatia more and more we talk about the importance of civil society, and many different initiatives that also encourage artistic expression. And I think that more and more different kind of people or actors are now on a bigger, are now visible on a bigger scale on in their communities. So I think we must encourage that.
Yes, 100%. I totally agree with your ideas. The fact that in the end, the top-down action from governments and authorities, it might be the one with the largest impact and with the most potential of changing and positively impacting climate change. But it's true that until the time comes that our authorities take a more decisive action, is the civil society and the bottom-up approach that has to lead the way. So in this sense, yes, even if the news are a little bit hopeless, it's very nice to listen to these initiatives you're talking about at the local level, maybe at the level of the town hall of the county. All these campaigns of raising awareness, right, beginning from the schools, the neighborhoods. I think, for example, where I come from in the Canary Islands, there are a lot of initiatives to go and pick up trash from the beaches, because in the end, we also live in a fragile ecosystem. So people there are very concerned of taking care of it. And it certainly won't end plastic being thrown into the ocean. But it's true that these are the little first seeds of a big change, that it's what they say, that a lot of small actions can lead to a big one. And well, we see Marwa maybe can join us a little bit for this end. It would be great.
Hello.
Marwa, hello. Can you listen to us?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. So nice. You can join us for the end. You were having trouble with the connection.
I'm sorry. I was really having so many troubles.
Don't worry.
Yes, we have this huge problem about Zoom in Syria, and we used to connect with VPN, but it looks like they increased the...
Yes.
And now I'm connected from the mobile, because on my laptop it wouldn't work at all. So
I see it. No, but thank you very much for joining us, Marwa, despite the difficulties. We've been having a very nice exchange here, but yes, I would like to hear you now a little bit. Maybe if you could tell us about your story for the 2020 edition of the Context, your experience with the Sea of Words, maybe your motivation to write, and also a little bit about yourself. What do you do now? Where are you connecting from? Thank you, Marwa.
Okay. Hello first. I'm really happy to join you, and it was a great experience with all of you and with the contest. First of all, I am 27 years. I live now in Damascus, and I work in civil society in with many organizations inside Syria. I used to work with a team called Nation Building Movement to work on empowering civil society itself, and we care about many issues that are in public affairs in Syria. Now I work with another organization that is more specialized in women's rights and advocating women and empowering women. I have been in the past 3 years all over the civil society, all the time working with organizations and being all interested in every issue. The contest, A Sea of Words, like it was the only literature contest that cares about real issues happening in our countries. Like it's not only literature, it's really to talk about something real, to talk about something you did. And I have participated in the past years before 2020, but I couldn't like really understand the concept that they want the real stories about what what do you think about the subject that is being put. So last year in 2020, I read the stories that they published for the winners in 2019. So I found that it was amazing the experiences that were written in stories and how inspiring they were. So I wrote my story about climate change, that it was something really personal to me to talk about my city, Homs in Syria, that I used to live in before I moved to Damascus. And I lived the first years of the war in Homs in Syria. So it was like a city that was brought to the ground totally. It was destroyed. And the first time when the combat ended in Homs, I went to the neighborhoods that were under fire, and I watched there how it was. It was really heartbreaking how the city was, and Homs was a really beautiful city and an old city, and it was totally destroyed and ugly, and I couldn't stand that. So at the time I was studying civil engineering, and we had these projects about rebuilding Syria and reconstruction. And I had my project about green green buildings, development, and considering the environment in building homes again. And I had an experience with a German organization, Friedrich Ebert, in which I was in a program for youth leaders in Syria. And we had also a project about the same subject. So I presented the same ideas that I had about development and green buildings. And they really loved it, and I thought it was amazing to think really like to build homes again and to make it better and to consider the environment and all the damage that happened during the war and the gases that were released in the air and all the pollution that happened. It was disastrous. So I really wish we could think about that in the future of Syria.
Thank you, Marwa. Yes, I read your story, and it's true that you made a really painful and realist description of the destruction of your city. You could really feel it, but which I felt so sorry for that. But you finish with this hope message, and also providing your ideas, your suggestions on this project, and you say you hope to see Syria regaining its rich and vital green. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit more on this topic, because we were just before you entered, we were discussing this agenda 2030, the possibilities of reaching its goals, of having a positive impact in the climate. So if you could explain us a little bit more on the ideas, on the projects you thought for this green and sustainable reconstruction of Syria.
Yes, the first it talks about the building materials to be less polluting and less harmful to the environment in Syria. Like we have these original rocks we can build from, not use processed stones. And I'm sorry, my English is not so great, but
it's perfect.
We have like the walls of the houses to be isolated, so that the water wouldn't come into, because we have this problem so much in Syria that when it rains, buildings inside that just get wet, and it's also because of the building materials. So the isolation actually makes it both benefit to the people living in the building and to the outside of the building. It makes the building more stable and more resisting to the weather, and it's made of organic materials, so it's not harmful at all to the environment. And we had this idea of green roofs to like make plant on the roofs that provides oxygen and provides organic food to the people living in the building, and also provides spaces for the children to play. And we have this recommendation about making more green spaces inside the city, because we had the lack of them in the past years in Syria, especially in homes, that we don't have gardens, we don't have spaces where there are trees and where children can play. We rarely see like roses planted. So in the plan we draw, and by the way, it's all the engineering students in the past years were making projects about this subject, and mainly focusing on green spaces and sustainable development. So so I had this idea that were repeated actually, but we really want to insist on them. So maybe they would be taken into consideration, um, to be more careful about the heating ways this is used in Syria, because in the past years, because of the lack of fuel and lack of central heating, many people cutting the trees to burn them, and it's really so much polluted air in the polluted air in the skies. And now you go to the mountains and you see no trees at all cut to the ground. So if we have a new heating, maybe like something for all the city to be at the same level of heating and getting power, the environment would be so better. And there's another thing that I maybe I didn't talk about in the story, but it's about our fire emergency, because in Syria now we have like every year those fires happening in the mountains, and it's almost like half the Syrian mountains are burned. So we don't have a plan to deal with the fires, and we don't have any protection to these forests or the animals in them, and it's really even worse after the fire happens, that they don't have a plan to recover the earth that was burned. So that's a new subject that put to study now.
Oh, Marwa, I'm so glad you can join us and explain us all these initiatives, because you really have plenty full of ideas, and also as you're studying engineer, I can see they are very well grounded, science-based, and focused on these materials, on these sustainable buildings. And really, I hope that they will hear you and consider them, because it's what we need at the moment, and not just in Syria. In general, we need to start thinking in those terms you're speaking, because especially construction, it can be one of the most polluting industries. Isolation, the fact of also constructing these green roofs for producing oxygen, these solar panels. So yeah, thank you for connecting in the end and for sharing all these thoughts, because it totally joins to the discussion we were having on possible measures on how to produce change locally, given that usually authorities, they are not so engaged. So yeah, I don't know what you think,
Yes,
guys, but
exactly,
those ideas and projects were definitely, I think they are ambitious, but so necessary.
Yes, maybe if we can like gather our voices and keep asking and keep demanding, and with the civil society pushing towards this, maybe we can achieve something. I don't know, like we have this huge troubles standing in our way, and the regime is, or the government are not very responsive, but we keep trying, and really civil society is trying to make an existence in Syria to work for these cases exactly, and to make a better future for everyone.
So we just gotta keep trying, Marwa. Yeah, you said it. You
Yes,
say it.
yes, exactly.
And I'm going to take one question from the chat from Heidi Haufe, who is watching us, and then maybe we can have some words to wrap up this this dialogue, this discussion. I'm sorry the time has run out. Really, like it has passed by so fast. It didn't seem an hour and a half. I wish we could have more time. Maybe the audience is not so interested as I am, but I'm really enjoying our discussion. So Heidi asked, does the Institute link young writers with young researchers who are using science to save biodiversity? Scientists often find answers, but sometimes we don't have the time or talent to get our message out to the world. So Heidi, if you're referring to the institute, the IEMed, the European Institute of the Mediterranean, yes, we have very interesting program which is called EuroMESCO. It's the IEMed is the secretary of this network of Euro-Mediterranean think tanks, which links young researchers together with institutions so they can publish their work and do more research. And so here we coordinate all these huge network. And I'm going to share with you my email so we can keep this contact after the event, and maybe you can share with us your work or your research areas. And but yes, this is another department. I am at the Culture and Civil Society, but EuroMESCO, it's exactly their labor, like to help these young researchers. IEMed.org. So there you have my email, Heidi, because definitely here we are speaking about a short story contest, but in the end we want to be part of a bigger change and of a wider vision, because of course huge impact, we are not going to reach it acting independently. Here we try to thank you, Heidi. Here we're trying to give a voice to young authors, and we have this short story perspective, but we also brought, for example, the artistic one from Anja, the rural villages from Jonathan. Now, Marwa, you're speaking to us about more of an engineering and building capacity. So definitely, and here at IEMed, we want to foster this sustainable development through many different areas and visions. So yeah, please send it to this email I send you, and we'll look forward to having this exchange. So dears, thank you so much for being with us here today. Really, I think well, I'm very happy with how it has developed. I'm sorry, Marwa, you couldn't join us earlier, but at least you've had your intervention in the end. I really want to thank you all for finding the time, and I hope we can still create these spaces to exchange, to get to know each other, and to keep pushing forward for these major causes of our time and of our generation. If you want just to have some words, your impressions.
Thank you all. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I was.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say I'm sorry I wasn't there from the beginning. I have to work on my Zoom application, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you for caring about everyone in this planet, and for like speaking about these issues that are being forgotten here in Syria. So it really matters to us that our voices are heard somewhere.
Thank you, Marwa.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Marwa, and thank you, Bartlomiej, as well for your experience from last year. I hope that we can continue to do this, and even in person in Barcelona this autumn. It would be amazing to know from everyone what we can do as well from our different sides of the sea to support each other and to start initiatives and to spark change in that way. It would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Also, I would like to say thank you to everybody, and hopefully we see each other in Barcelona. Also with selected people, right? It will be double edition, right?
Yes,
am I right?
With the people selected in the edition in the call we are currently running.
Okay, so I can say that we invite our viewers to participate. Maybe we will meet together in Barcelona. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bartlomiej.
Marwa, I was sorry because I interrupted you. I was so excited to tell you my opinion about your story, because it was really moving for me, and really it is devastating to think of the impact of war on our environment and the climate change. And I would also like to say that your story highlights education and persistence, and I would agree with that. And will say that often we think that just one individual cannot do anything, but I think it's really important for a bigger change to, as we said today, what did we say? Think locally and act globally. And thank you again for inviting me, and it was a real privilege to share this Zoom stage with all of you, and looking forward to seeing you in Barcelona.
Thank you so much for your words, Anja. I want also to thank the viewers that are here with us at this horrible schedule from 5:30 to 7 in the afternoon. Really, you are great for having joined us in this session. And Jonathan, Marwa, Anja, and Bartlomiej, I deeply thank you. I think also that you are examples of what it's possible to accomplish, even though being young. But with your work, with your dedication, with your commitment, I think you are examples for young people to follow, and it has been inspiring really to have this conversation with you. I really look forward to meeting you soon in Barcelona and to keep in touch through these online means that we have been forced to use so much. And yeah, thanks to everyone for this nice event. Take care.
So lovely to meet you all. Take care.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye. Bye, everyone.